It's Friday the 13th, and that is a day of failure and mistakes. And in some parts of the world, it's also about horror. In this video, I'm going to tell you my 4 biggest failures and mistakes in photography. The first one is from film era. I was photographing some big machines and I had a backdrop, but I only had one backdrop which was just big enough for that photo shoot, and I didn't have a spare one with me. And what happened, everything was set up and was looking at the machines and I walked on that backdrop. I ripped it really bad. And when we're talking about film era, fixing the problem was not that easy. If it was, digital era, I could have just, taken the images and, used Photoshop and all done. What I had to do now is that I had to take the photograph because everything was stopped at the factory for that photo shoot for 2-3 hours that I had the time. So I had to photograph them with the ripped backdrop. And yeah, I got the images, but the problem was that I couldn't fix it. So I had to use a professional retouching service to scan those images, slides, and then fix them and make the slides again. So you can imagine that the financial things with that gig didn't go too well. The only one that made some money was that retouching company. I actually lost a lot of money because of that, but I had to do it because it was an important client, and luckily I could photograph for them again. So it was in that sense not a big failure. But can you imagine the feeling when you rip that and everything is ruined, and they are all, the people are there, they're watching, and I'm like, probably my face was all red because of the embarrassment, but I just had to do it, and the end result was okay, even though it cost me a lot of money. And then the second one was when I went to a portrait shoot outdoors without any memory cards. This was from digital era, and okay, time schedule was so tight, so I could not, go anywhere to get those memory cards. And I only had like half an hour, and we were out in the woods, in the middle of nowhere almost. But what I did was that I didn't tell the client that I don't have any memory cards. I took the shots, and luckily, the client didn't want to see the photographs from that. That was what I was afraid of. But I just took the chance, and he didn't ask. And then what I did was, after I've done the shooting with the camera without the memory card, so of course no images, what I did was I asked them, hey, I just bought this new mobile phone which has a really great camera. Can I take a few shots of you with this so that I can see how good it is? I just got it the day before, so I hadn't really time to use the phone as a camera yet. So I did like 20-30 shots with that and presented those images, and everything was fine. And to this day, the client doesn't know that those images were taken with the mobile phone. I managed to do that, and we're making mistakes, and no problem with making mistakes and fail. That's human, like error is human thing, so don't worry about that too much. The big thing is that how to cope with that and how to solve the problems when you fail. And I think that's the biggest lesson, especially on that one. And I'm still astonished that I came up with the idea. I don't know where that came from, but I'm really happy that it did, because of course I was able to keep that client for future things. Be interesting to hear, what have you done that has failed in photography? And I'm not taking the bad images, but is there something funny stories about photography that maybe wasn't that funny when it happened, but now you can laugh years later? So please tell us in the comments down below. I think it would be fun to hear your stories. Hi, it's Peter here. And if you have enjoyed my failures, please like this video. It means a lot to me. But let's get to the next one. And the third one is also from the film era. I had a big photo shoot about an hour's drive north of Helsinki. There was a big company that had their sales personnel in a meeting. They came all over different parts of Finland and spent there the day, and I was photographing them the whole day, taking some, portraits and stuff like that. And since it was film era, I mainly used on those type of gigs, I used slide film. And of course, you can't check during the day how everything is going, so I went back home, and the next day I took the films to get developed and pick them up. I couldn't, I didn't have time the same day to pick them up, so I went the next day, and they said that there's something wrong. Everything is pure white, and I got like 5 or 6 rolls of film. Everything was ruined, and I was like, oh gosh, what's going on here? And first, of course, I thought that my mistake, I had, set the wrong aperture or something like that, because I had the flashlights and they were about f8, or not about, it was f8. And when I got back home, I was so sure that I had f8, so I tested the lens and the camera. And the camera was okay, but the lens was faulty, so it shot full open everything. So the slide films were overexposed 4 stops, which is totally not recoverable. You cannot fix that. It was just pure white almost. You can kind of see some small lines, but you know, you can use those, and no, lost a client, lost the money, and you know, couldn't, you know, redo that, so they had to do something else. But unfortunately, sometimes even the failure, and you just cannot fix them. If this was digital era, I could have seen that, you know, from the first test shot. But when using slide film and film era, you could not, you know, see what was going on. And after the next one, I will have a bonus failure, which is the most fun one. And then the 4th one was when I was doing a video shoot. It was planned outdoors early morning before, you know, office hours, for 2 reasons. That was the only time the people that were interviewed had the time. And then, of course, there were less people around downtown Helsinki because it was outdoors in the busy streets. And doing that, it was a lot easier to do, so not that many distractions, and you could put some lights on the sidewalks easily when there's not too many people around. I had everything set up, and then I took the camera and realized that no batteries, no memory cards. And the whole crew was there, and I was like, well, we're not going to do this today. Let's reschedule this. And you can imagine the embarrassment. The extra failure. I had a photo shoot in a big office building right downtown in Helsinki. And everything was okay. I set up, you know, flashes and, you know, backdrops and everything. And there were a few people, you know, already photographed when the fire alarm went off. And, you know, everybody had to leave the building, of course, and took some time, you know, of course. There were not even I'm not saying that thousands of people, but hundreds of people standing then in the sidewalk in front of the building, and the fire department came with big fire trucks. It took about half an hour. We had to wait outdoors. And of course, it was a really cold day, and not all of us had the time to get the jackets. So people were with, you know, very little clothes and indoor shoes, and there was a lot of snow and windy and really cold, and so people were a bit off because they had to come out. But you know, these things happens, and after about a half an hour, the chief of the fire squad that was there came out and with a loud voice that said, hey, whose studio flash is right there next to the smoke detector? And that caused the alarm. And I was like, raised my hand and was, well, yeah, it's mine. And you know, and then wasn't the most popular person in that building during that day. But there was one lucky thing. If that flash had been in right next to a water sprinkler, well, I'm glad it wasn't, because that would have been even a bigger disaster. But on this gig, I got the photographs, and of course, you know, people weren't really happy. So getting smiles out of those people wasn't the easiest thing at that time. Now I can laugh at that, but you can imagine being surrounded by 100 people that are really cold, and then yeah, it's my mistake. Sorry, I'll raise my hand for mark of a mistake. But things happens, and luckily nobody has ever gotten hurt, and that's the biggest thing. The only thing that has happened is some financial setbacks and some missing photographs, but those are actually quite small problems. But I thought it would be fun to share this on the Friday the 13th. But yeah, if you have had any failures or funny stories about photography that has, you know, that things hasn't gone the way you wanted, then please let us know in the comments down below. And here are some more videos for you to watch. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.